And all my brother Joe and I had to do was turn to our daddy and say, "Who used to live over there?" And my daddy would tell us again and again the remarkable story of old Man Hawkins. My dad would say, "Well, boys, you know that little house, that's where old Man Hawkins used to live." My brother would say, "Old Man Hawkins, what was his real name?" And my dad would say, "He didn't have one." Everybody called him Old Man. His wife called him Old Man. His children called him Old Man. That was his name as far as anybody knows. And my brother and I would say, "What did he do when he lived over there?" My dad would say, "Well, boys, you see, there used to be a big porch on the front of that house. That big porch was where all the neighbors gathered to talk and visit about everything. Old Man Hawkins loved to talk. In fact, he did most of the talking. He loved to brag. And he would brag to all the neighbors about how he was the greatest hunter in the world. He would say things like, "Fellas, you know, when I go deer hunting, I always take a mirror with me. You see, to be fair to all the deer, I don't shoot straight at them. I look in the mirror, and when I see a deer in the mirror, then I lay the gun across my shoulder, and I shoot them every time." Nobody believed that, but they did like to hear the stories. He would say, "Fellas, you know, when I go squirrel hunting, I always take a .22 rifle and a double-bitted axe. I chop the axe up in the side of a tree, get down below, and then I shoot the axe blade, split the bullet, and kill 2 squirrels at once, every time." Well, even if the stories were fun, after a while, the neighbors started getting tired of old Man Hawkins bragging. And one day they came up with an idea. They thought, "Why don't we give him a hunting test? Why don't we go up there and get him to go hunting, and if he doesn't come home with more meat than anybody else, then we won't listen to him anymore." Well, one of the neighbors who was in on the plan happened to be the blacksmith, and he had another idea. He said, "Fellas, remember when I tried to make a homemade gun?" Everybody laughed. They knew the whole story. The blacksmith had tried to make a homemade muzzle loader, but he couldn't get the barrel straight, and he was scared to shoot it. The blacksmith said, "Let's take that old gun up there and let old Man Hawkins use it. The barrel may not be straight, but he can shoot around trees with it if he's as good as he says." So on a Saturday after that, all the neighbors headed to old Man Hawkins' house. They had the blacksmith's homemade muzzle loader with a curving barrel. They had a big powder horn full of gunpowder, and they had 3 homemade bullets when they knocked on old Man Hawkins' door. They said, "Old man, we've come up here to give you a hunting test. We've heard you brag so much that we want you to take this gun and go hunting for 3 hours. And if you can't come home with enough meat to eat for 3 days, you're going to have 3 bullets. We're not going to listen to you anymore." Well, old Man Hawkins had bragged so much he couldn't stop. He said, "That's okay with me, fellas. Send me hunting if you want to. I'll come back with enough to eat for 3 weeks. The trouble is, when old Man Hawkins looked at the muzzle loader, he had no idea how to even load it. You see, in spite of all his bragging, he never even owned a gun. He had no idea what to do when you went hunting. He looked at his friends and he said, "Now, fellas, I need to go put my hunting clothes on, so while I do that, how about loading this gun so I'll be ready to go?" Pretty smart. Because what old man Hawkins did was, he hid in the bedroom and watched through a crack in the door to learn how to load the gun. He saw his neighbors measure out some gunpowder, pour it down the barrel, pack it down with the ramrod. He saw them take a homemade bullet, pack it down in the barrel with the ramrod, turn the gun up, put a little gunpowder in the pan on the back. He thought, well, the first shot's ready, and I think I know how to do that for the other two. He came out of the bedroom. He hadn't even changed clothes. He had just taken his one pair of bib overalls, turned them wrong side out, put them back on again, and now he called it his hunting clothes. He took the loaded gun, the 2 extra bullets, the powder horn full of powder, and then he took off to get as far away from the house as he could so nobody could watch him while he figured out how to go hunting. He walked down to the Pigeon River. There was a little boat there that everybody took back and forth across the river when they wanted to cross. He got in the little boat, poled himself across to the other side, got out, walked up in the woods. He thought, now, it's a good idea to get out of sight. This way, I can figure out what I'm doing. Old man Hawkins sat down on a tree stump. He didn't know what to do. But he thought to himself, well, this looks like a good place for me to wait to see if something comes along that would like to get shot. As luck would have it, while old man Hawkins was sitting on the stump, he heard a noise up in the woods. And when he looked, he saw a big black bear coming across the top of the hill. He eased down behind the stump, laid the gun across the top. When the bear got close enough, he pulled the trigger and the gun went blam. The bullet came out of that curving barrel and it hit the ground not halfway to the bear. And the bear took off, not to be seen again. Well, I will say, old man Hawkins said to himself, that bullet didn't go far enough. Those fellows who loaded this gun, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't use enough gunpowder. I'll use more gunpowder on the next shot. And so when old man Hawkins reloaded the muzzle loader, he poured in 3 times as much gunpowder as they had used for the first bullet, packed the second bullet down on top, and now he was ready again. He sat back down on the stump, and as luck would have it again, in a few minutes he heard another noise in the woods. This time he looked up and he saw a big buck deer with huge antlers. Old man Hawkins eased down behind the stump, laid the gun across the top again, and when the deer got close, he pulled the trigger. Kablam! This bullet went farther. It went most of the way to the deer. But it hit the ground under the deer's belly, threw up dirt and rocks, and the deer was gone. Old man Hawkins said to himself again, my goodness, even I didn't use enough gunpowder. Well, he said, I've just got 1 shot left. I better make it a really good one. And so old man Hawkins took all the rest of the gunpowder in the powder horn, poured every bit of it down the gun barrel before he packed down the last bullet for one last great shot. Well, by now he had made enough